Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grilly Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure you use the promo code TRUTH100 for a cashback deposit or cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am Mike Goodpaster, flying solo today as Anthony still can't be with us. I think that Cowboys game really took a lot out of him. But last night, I think what we saw were maybe the two best teams in the NFL. I don't know. I'm still not completely sold on what Seattle's got around Russell Wilson. But as long as Seattle's got Russell Wilson, they've got a shot to beat anybody, and they got a shot to win the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson has to be, at this point in the season, after 10 or 11 games, has to be the MVP. Russell Wilson now, and the stat that really stands out to me that I found was the fact that in the regular season against teams that are 8 games or more above 500, Russell Wilson is 8-0. That means he's never lost to a team in the regular season that has 8 more wins than losses. And when you compare that to the conversations we had about Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott, it really tells you a lot about Russell Wilson. Now, last night, of course, the last of the unbeatens has been slain. So, you know, in Miami, the old guys are popping champagne as the 72 Dolphins are still the only team to go undefeated in NFL history. And last night was a 70-minute clash of NFC West rivals in prime time that lived up to the hype. The Seahawks escaped Levi's Stadium with a nail-biting 27-24 overtime victory over the previously undefeated San Francisco 49ers on the legs of Jason Myers, who knocked home a 42-yard field goal with no time remaining in the fifth period. That's overtime, if everybody's wondering why there was a fifth period and you didn't see the game. And, you know, what we learned from this game contained multitudes of everything. It was a primetime clash between NFC West rivals with the MVP favorite and arguably the game's greatest defense going head-to-head for 60 minutes and then some. You can't ask more from a midseason nightcap. There were critical errors. Seattle and San Francisco combined for 7 turnovers. There were clutch plays. Chase McLaughlin's game-tying field goal. Shaquille Griffith's late pass defense on a Jimmy Garoppolo deep ball. And about 9 escapes were made by Russell Wilson that come to mind. There was the thrill of victory. Jason Myers' game-winning field goal at the buzzer. In the agony of defeat, rookie kicker Chase McLaughlin, who just signed with the 49ers because Robbie Gould's injury, game-winning attempt sailed really wide left. I hate to say he choked, but that's what it looked like. And left amid the on-field ruckus that ensued following Myers' game-winning boot was a Seahawks victory and a 49ers loss, their first of the season. With the state of the NFC West and the NFC playoff picture remade by Monday night's effort, Seattle is now just a half game behind San Francisco in the division. And remember, San Francisco's going to have to travel to Seattle yet. San Francisco's got to travel to Baltimore. So things are going to get a lot tougher for the 49ers, and we're going to find out exactly how real this team is. Now, atop the conference overall, Green Bay sits at 8-2, New Orleans 7-2, and Minnesota 7-3. All these teams are nipping at the heels of the Niners, who are no longer invincible, no longer unbeatable. This was a game dominated by defense on both sides. It came down to which offense would make the bigger plays in overtime to secure a victory. And, you know, quarterback Geno Smith was clutch last night, getting that coin toss to start the overtime. The Seahawks looked primed to make the final period a one-and-done experience. Wilson, who threw for 232 yards, converted 2 third downs with passes to Josh Gordon and Malik Turner and marched Seattle into the 49ers' red zone in 7 plays. But Wilson got a little too greedy, threw an interception in the corner just inside the 10-yard line. Dre Greenlaw made a play, who Jacob Hollister was the intended receiver. Wilson, one of his few mistakes all night, underthrew the ball just a little bit. Greenlaw returned the pick all the way back to midfield, setting San Francisco up with the perfect field goal position for a game-winning field goal attempt. The Niners picked up just 1 first down on the ensuing drive, and a Raheem Mostert run, which appeared to secure a second first down, was ruled short of the line to gain. Now, on the replay, It looked like he got there, but we know the NFL is not overturning something unless they absolutely have to. Chase McLaughlin came out and failed miserably on a 47-yard field goal attempt. Both offenses fritzed on the ensuing possession, each going three and out, and mismanaging the clock very badly. And you took just a combined 90 seconds off the clock for both teams combined, and there was just too much time left there. San Francisco went for it all on that last drive. On 3rd and 10, when Garoppolo launched a deep sideline bomb to Deebo Samuel, who had 112 yards receiving, and looks like a guy that maybe in a year or two could be that number one receiver that Garoppolo needs. But the aforementioned Shaquille Griffith dove to swat the ball away, stopping the clock and securing Seattle another possession. Wilson would make the most of it, and by the most of it, he drove the Seahawks 40 yards in 81 seconds with no timeouts to get in the field goal range. The Seahawks quarterback, 3rd down, 18-yard scramble was a thing of beauty in the play of this game, an example of Wilson being the MVP and at the peak of his powers in a big game. Russell Wilson controlled the game's outcome. When you heard us talk about this game on Friday, me and Anthony, and we picked it, I picked the 49ers. But as I said on there, if you give Russell Wilson the ball with a chance to beat you at the end of the game, he's usually going to beat you. Now, a guy that really stood out to me outside of Russell Wilson on his Seattle team was Jadeveon Clowney. And I think everybody expected these kind of performances all the time with him. Hasn't happened to last night. It was without a doubt his best performance since joining Seattle via trade this summer. He lined up against Joe Staley and Mike McGlinchey, both of whom returned Monday from leaking absences. And Clowney routinely beat both tackles. He smothered a skittish Garoppolo, seemingly unblockable. Clowney logged a season-high 12 quarterback pressures, 8 hurries, 5 quarterbacks hits, a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown off another strip sack. And Clowney wasn't the only stud in Seattle's front seven on Monday. Jerron Reed, Poona Ford, and Al Woods all stood out also. And I think the thing we got to look at here, though, Seattle barely won this game, and the 49ers did it without their two best receivers. You know, George Kittle was inactive. His top target was Emmanuel Sanders, who made a couple plays early in the game, but he had to exit Monday's game in the second quarter with a rib injury. Garoppolo was tasked with leading San Francisco to its 9th win with a handicapped receiver score, and the amount of dropped passes here was unreal. Now, the Niners' second-ranked ground game never got off the ground against Seattle's front. Breida and Coleman combined for just 58 yards rushing. Breida left the game with an ankle injury, and the long runs that had, basically confused previous opponents and took advantage of them weren't there. That left it to Garoppolo to latch onto a lesser established receiver core, most notably Samuel, who did have a really good game, Ross Dwelly, and Kendrick Bourne. Unfortunately, the latter was partially responsible for Jimmy G's lone interception, though Garoppolo launched the third down pass high. But this was just not a good night for Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers offense. Russell Wilson has to be the front runner for the MVP, at least in my book. Seattle doesn't win this game without his late overtime heroics. And when you look at this roster, I mean, the offensive line is not great. Chris Carson is a really good running back. They got Lockett. Josh Gordon made some plays last night in the fourth quarter and in the overtime that makes it look like he's going to be a good signing for them. But I don't think there's any other quarterback in the game that would have Seattle sitting at this record at this moment in time. And we talked about Josh Gordon. Gordon was a total non-factor until he wasn't. The wideout most recently, New England fame, logged just 27 snaps in his first game since Seattle picked him up off of waivers. Didn't see a target for nearly 57 minutes of action, but Gordon finished with 2 big catches on as many targets, both on slants on either side of the field, for 35 yards and 2 third-down conversions. And when Seattle star receiver Tyler Lockett went out with an injury in overtime, Gordon was called upon to take the snaps. And I think it's safe to say in 2013, Josh Gordon, if he wasn't the best receiver in the game, was up there. I think it's safe to say now that he's probably more of just a journeyman third wide receiver. But if Lockett's injury is serious, and it may be because he took him to the hospital with swelling, I think Gordon will see a lot more action going forward, and he's going to have to step up and play more like the 2013 Josh Gordon than the 2016, 17, 18 Josh Gordon we've seen. So the bad thing there is it's hard to depend on a man who's been in as much trouble as what he has. So my takeaway from this with the 49ers is just one loss. It's not that big a deal, but for Seattle, it was a huge game. It puts them back in competition in the NFC West and overall in the NFC. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be back right after this.
Hello, boxing fans. I'm Michael Montero of Montero on Boxing. You may have read my work in Boxing Monthly Magazine, Ring Magazine, or their associated websites, maybe Undisputed Champion Network. Maybe you've heard my segments on NBC Sports Radio or any of the other platforms where I do work regularly. I wanted to invite you to check out my podcast, The Neutral Corner. We upload it every Monday. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course at thegruelingtruth.net. Every week we go over the news, the rumors, the latest fights being put together. We analyze everything, give you the business behind the business, and then we review all the action that took place in the ring during the prior week around the world. Not just the big popular fights, but all the fights, including the little guys. And then, of course, we preview the action coming up this week. Again, Michael Montero, The Neutral Corner, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and thegruelingtruth.net.
All right, guys, we are back on my Goodpaster on the NFL Show. Anthony Cervino couldn't make it today. Cincinnati, Preston Brown's time has surprisingly come to an abrupt end this morning. The Bengals announced this morning they have waived a veteran linebacker. Brown came over to Cincinnati on a one-year deal in 2018 after spending his first 4 seasons in Buffalo and appeared in 7 games before suffering a season-ending knee injury. The Bengals retained Brown via a new 3-year contract signed in the offseason, and he appeared in all 9 of Cincinnati games in 2019. I think the writing was on the wall this last Sunday. Brown didn't start in Sunday's loss to the Baltimore Ravens, which dropped the Bengals, of course, to 0-9 on the year. And rookie Jermaine Pratt, a third-round pick out of NC State, took his place. My take on this is Preston Brown is a middle linebacker in a 4-3 defense. And the Cincinnati Bengals are playing nickel. And coming into the season, the Bengals knew what they were going to do on defense. They knew Preston Brown didn't fit, and they still gave him a 3-year contract. This is on the Bengals, as it always is. They overpaid for him, and he is a guy that did not fit the scheme that they wanted to run. I don't know why he would have been re-signed. We go to rookie Jermaine Pratt, who now they're going to play at middle linebacker. They're in the nickel, so he plays outside. He's in pass coverage. The problem with Jermaine Pratt is, if you watched him at North Carolina State, Jermaine Pratt is a guy that mostly had his hand in the dirt, or the AstroTurf, and was going after the quarterback. He's not a middle linebacker. He's not an outside linebacker. He's an edge pass rusher that they're going to try to make an outside linebacker or a middle linebacker. And with the Bengals coaching staff, I don't think that's going to turn out too well. All right, now the status of Cleveland Browns defensive end Olivia Vernon is still uncertain, per Coach Freddie Kitchens, who also said he didn't think safety Eric Murray would be available for Thursday's big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a game if the Cleveland Browns want to have any chance of getting back into this and making anything out of their season, they have to win. I highly doubt they will, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are more like the Tennessee Titans. They're a smash-mouth, in-your-face team. They're not, coached by a PlayStation guy, and I think Mike Tomlin will have the Steelers ready to go into Cleveland and maybe get another win. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers do that, they're in the conversation come playoff time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers cut cornerback Vernon Hargreaves III after less than 4 seasons with the team. The former first-round pick was benched Sunday by Coach Bruce Arians for a lack of hustle, which ultimately served as a precursor to Tuesday's move. In other NFL news, Devontae Freeman could miss 2 weeks, which, it's not going to keep Atlanta out of the playoffs. But Falcons running back Freeman could be out around 2 weeks with a foot sprain. And Freeman rushed 10 times for 38 yards in the win Sunday and caught 3 passes for 10 yards in a game that was dominated by Atlanta's surprising defensive effort. So Freeman is a big loss for a little bit here for a couple weeks for the Falcons. The Falcons are also looking at the potential of being without Austin Hooper. And MRI revealed the tight end suffered an MCL sprain in Sunday's win and is expected to miss some time. Rappaport reported he will be a second opinion to determine how long he'll be out. New Orleans Saints quarterback Marshawn Lattimore suffered a hamstring sprain and is week to week. The Philadelphia Eagles have again signed wide receiver Jordan Matthews. He played for Philadelphia in 2018 as well as the first 3 years of his career, catching 245 passes over those 4 seasons. Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin told reporters he is comfortable with running back James Conner and guard Ramon Foster as being able to play Thursday night against the Cleveland Browns. He was not as optimistic about Rosie Nix and Benny Shell, so there's going to be some injury issues coming into that Browns-Steelers battle. Kansas City Chiefs offensive lineman Martinez Rankin suffered a knee injury that is likely season-ending. Ian Rappaport reported that Rankin will have an MRI today, but the belief is he suffered an injury to his patella. The Chiefs placed him on injured reserve Monday. New York Jets guard Brian Winters dislocated his shoulder. Coach Adam Gase announced this. Winters' injury is more likely season-ending and might require surgery. Tight end Chris Herndon will be out for an extended period of time with a fractured rib. The Oakland Raiders are working out former Lions and Seahawks defensive back Deshaun Sneed. And they got to play the Bengals, so he'll have a good first game if he gets to do this. The Carolina Panthers claimed former Bears running back Mike Davis off waivers. I'm having a hard time talking today. After clearing waivers, wide receiver Deon Cain is signing on the Indianapolis Colts practice squad. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers claimed offensive lineman Aaron Stinney from the Titans practice squad. In a corresponding move, Tampa Bay waived offensive lineman Nate Trewin. The Dallas Cowboys might be without offensive tackle Connor Williams for an extended period, as Williams will undergo a knee scope on Tuesday. LA Rams starting center Brian Allen is out for the season with an MCL injury. Coach Sean McVay told reporters Monday. McVay added at right tackle Rob Havenstein has a meniscus injury, and receiver Brandon Cooks will miss LA's Week 11 game against the Chicago Bears. All right, guys. My only question right now is who's the best team in the AFC? If you have any response to who you think the best team in the AFC is, just hit me up at Grueling Truth. Direct message me. And we're going to look at the AFC standings right now. And I think with the lack of competition the Patriots have played, it's always a knee-jerk reaction to just say the Patriots are the best team. Now, the Patriots, I think, are going to win the AFC East, but I think they're going to lose a couple more games along the way. The Buffalo Bills are a team that I don't think is going to make the playoffs. And we know the Dolphins and Jets aren't. You go down to this AFC West, though, you've all of a sudden got an interesting race where the Chiefs only lead the Raiders by a half a game. The Chiefs did beat the Raiders in Oakland, which means Oakland's going to have to go back to Kansas City and beat them. And the Chiefs have lost, 3 games at home. The San Diego Chargers at 4-6. Still a little bit of life there if they can go 5-1 over the last 6. I think 9-7 will get you that last wild card spot. The other interesting teams here, we got the Ravens. I think they're going to win the AFC North. And the question is, are the Ravens the best team? I mean, they manhandled New England once. They're 7-2 right now. Lamar Jackson plays really well. And the thing that really sticks out here is the defense has picked it up over the last couple weeks, because I thought the defense was the biggest issue with them. The Cleveland Browns are dead in the water. We go to the AFC South. You've got the Houston Texans. The Colts are 5-4. The Titans are 5-5. The Jaguars are still in it at 4-5. So when I look at this, I think the Titans and the Texans are the most likely teams to come out of this. But I think there's a really good chance that you're going to get a division winner and a wild card team out of the AFC South. The Steelers, the Raiders, the Bills are all going to contend. I really think when I look at this, I think there's a good chance the Pittsburgh Steelers can make the playoffs. There's a good chance the Oakland Raiders could. The Indianapolis Colts, They need Jacoby Brissett back. Without him, there's issues. But when you look at this, is there really a team in the AFC you can see playing with the best teams in the NFC? I mean, I know on any given week, a Saints-Falcons can happen. But overall, is there a team here that you would really be convinced that could play with the Saints? Or the 49ers? Or the Vikings even? I know the Chiefs beat the Vikings at home by a couple points. But that Vikings team is really good defensively. They got Dalvin Cook. They've got a really good quarterback at Kirk Cousins, no matter what people think. And with the Chiefs, you've got a really good quarterback. You got really good skill position players. And then everything else on that team is average. And when you've got an Andy Reid who decides with a 2-score lead that he's going to keep snapping the ball with 15 seconds on the play clock, it makes you wonder if they are capable of winning when it gets down to it. I mean, sure, they scored 284 points this year, but they've been up 239, and they have major issues stopping the run. So when I look at this, teams that can stop the run and run the ball, how many teams here are like that? I mean, the Ravens maybe. The Raiders, they're decent at stopping a run, but I mean, they've given up more points than they've scored this year. The Patriots can stop the run, but they haven't really run the ball outstanding, especially when they play really good teams. The Bills don't run the ball that well. So when you go by that criteria of you can stop the run and you can run, the Baltimore Ravens might be the best team in the AFC right now because they can run the ball. Whether it's Lamar Jackson or the running backs, I mean, they can run the ball. They stop the run all right, but they don't stop it great, so that drops them off. The Texans don't really stop the run. How about this? What about the Tennessee Titans? I think the Tennessee Titans are in a running here. I know they're 5-5 right now. 9-7 gets you to the playoffs. If they were to go as the 6th seed and they were playing the 3 seed, the 3 seed right now would either be the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs. The Titans could beat either one of those teams. We know the Titans can beat the Chiefs. They just did it. So when I look at teams most capable of playing with teams out of the NFC, those teams would be the Titans. They'd be the Texans because of Deshaun Watson, who I think is up there. He's not with Russell Wilson, but he's in the group right below him. The Ravens, I don't think the Steelers run the ball well enough to be in that conversation. So, yeah, you got the Patriots because of Belichick. So there's like 3 or 4 teams that may be able to compete with them. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up today. Me and Anthony will be back tomorrow at noon. So make sure you check us out. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Now over 320 different outlets you can find The Grueling Truth. So this has been Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.